Fox, Matt Daniel joins us for a recap of September and what we can expect for the month ahead.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Welcome into Weather Extra. Lauren, we're still dealing with these dry conditions.
We are. You know, I gotta say, Wes, I've had a decent hair day today because it's not all that ridiculously muggy outside.
Well, you know, yeah, it's been giving me fits.
I know, I'm
mean,
sure.
yeah.
I'm sure. Maybe I need to cut mine as short as yours is so I don't have to worry about it. Right?
there you go. Hey, it's good to have you back with us today. I mean, I know you were a little bit under these allergies. It's been bad.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like the past month, you and I have had a rough go of issues here when it comes to illness. But yeah, the ragweed really got to me. So I feel for all of you guys. And I've heard when I came back in the building today, some people are still stuffy in here too.
That's right. Yeah, if you've got the sniffles, it's ragweed, it's grass pollen. It's just been very dry, and we just need a little bit of rain just to settle the dust, right?
Just a little bit. So we may get a little sprinkle Friday night. We'll see. First alert for that.
Yeah, it's nice to see it. We were checking out in the last half hour some of the global data from the European model. It's still showing showers. The GFS is showing showers. It's nice to see multiple models still showing a chance for rain. But let's get into it. The next big thing here on Weather Extra, and here it comes, a pattern shift. We have a fairly impressive northern stream system. The jet stream is going to take a dive to the south, and it's going to send a cold front our way. Now, most of the precipitation with this system is going to set up in areas to the north, but there will be a threat of storms breaking out here across the plain states over the next 24 to 48 hours as that system starts to dive southward. You can see there's strong to severe storms developing. That is going to be later tomorrow, heading into Tuesday p.m. And a lot of that wet weather is going to stay to the north of us, but a few showers from that system could reach us by the weekend. So a first alert for changes on the way. Right now, the atmosphere is extremely dry out there, 84 degrees, and the dew points are down into the mid-50s, so that temperature is going to take a big tumble here with the ground so dry. Drought conditions are developing across Alabama. It's going to make for more cool mornings, pleasant evenings, and the afternoon's still going to be on the hot side, but at least the evenings and mornings are going to feel nice. And then we have that chance for showers coming up later on this week and some colder air behind that. That's the one thing you're really going to notice, that big drop in temperatures that's coming for our weekend. This may be the last week where we can see those highs closer to 90 degrees for quite some time. But this evening, feeling very pleasant out there. Some lovely October weather. I know we need the rain, but this is October in Alabama, and you can see very dry, those temperatures down into the mid-70s by 8 o'clock. But we're going to take a closer look at that next system that will bring wet weather possibilities by the weekend, plus updates on the tropics and the full 7-day forecast as we continue right here on Weather Extra.
Thanks, Wes. Well, scientists in Utah are working to change the weather the best way they can. The state has been investing millions of dollars into a process called cloud seeding, which is technology that's used to get more rain out of storms. If done right, areas can get 15% more precipitation.
Silver iodide, which is used in the process, I am learning that as far as impacts to the environment, they're fairly insignificant. And that was something that I was really concerned about.
One of the things that's very exciting about it now is that the science is advancing. We have new tools to detect and measure the impacts of cloud seeding. And then we have the drought and that, need for water.
Utah's Department of Natural Resources says this will not solve all of the state's water needs, but can be a part of the solution.
And in the desert Southwest, as monsoon season comes to an end, Arizona dealt with a different kind of situation. No rain. Eleni Deo has more on the developments.
A nice sunny day at Tempe Beach Park with not a cloud in sight on the last day of monsoon 2023.
A lot of folks kept saying that the monsoons are coming, and I'm like, where are the monsoons at?
Many are wondering the same thing.
Really disappointing. I always look forward to it.
This year, I didn't see as much as last year.
This year is the driest monsoon on record. The previous record was set back in 1924 when we measured 0.35 inches of rain that season. The National Weather Service says Phoenix received 0.15 inches of rain this monsoon. Looking at this graph, it is well below our average rainfall of 0.241 inches.
Right now, I'm just thankful for great weather, honestly, and hopeful that we do get some rain. because Arizona needs it, that's for sure.
We did see some strong storms sweep through the valley, a few dust storms that also pushed back a college football game, and some microbursts that left behind some destruction at Falcon Field and damaging schools. But the lack of storms did not help with the excessively hot summer we had.
It's just really hot outside, especially since it's the end of September.
Luckily, though, it will start cooling down.
Go!
As many are enjoying at least the low 100s or upper 90s instead of the 110s we endured.
Make it through that time. It's worth it. Well worth it.
And the monsoon is actually a seasonal shift in the wind direction across the southwest, and it leads to often more active situations there with respect to the rainy season across the southwest. Well, check it out. Here it comes, the International Space Station. We're going to have an opportunity to view the space station tonight, looking to the northwest at 7:19. We're going to have a 4-minute viewing window. The space station is going to be kind of low on the horizon. But if you miss out on the space station, just stay tuned at 7:33 p.m. and you'll have a chance to spot the Starlink satellites flying overhead. So we have fans in the night sky, a lot of opportunities out there. And with, of course, it being so dry, the atmosphere is not as hazy, especially outside of the light contamination. We should have some great views this evening. But if you do capture a view, you can share that with us on the WBRC First Alert weather app. Well, we have more coming up here on Weather Extra, talking more about the weather situation with Matt Daniel for the past month and the developing drought conditions across the state and the weather question of the day as we continue after this 30 seconds. All right, welcome back. And you know, we've got we've been talking a lot about this dry weather, and high winds have actually caused in other parts of the country where it's been very dry and very dusty. We've seen a lot of the dust come off of the Great Salt Lake, and Fox's Darian Brule shows us why some people are concerned and the problems experts are hoping to solve.
Past the growing Salt Lake City skyline, a plume of dust lifted above the Great Salt Lake and traveled into the air Saturday.
The dust storms produce particulate matter and basically particles in the atmosphere. And when you breathe those particles in the atmosphere, some of those remain in your lungs. And the people that are most likely to be impacted by breathing these particles are the elderly, children, people with pre-existing conditions like asthma or COPD. But at high enough concentrations, it can affect everybody regardless.
Kevin Perry, professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Utah, says he first noticed dust plumes coming off the Great Salt Lake 13 years ago. The first severe one, 7 years ago.
These big events like we had yesterday seem to happen somewhere between 10 or 15 times a year. But what we don't yet have a good measure of are smaller dust events.
The lake did rise a few feet this year, but Perry says 90% of the dust hotspots are still exposed.
In addition to the particles coming off the lake, we've identified that there are certain metals in the dust. We know that there are high concentrations of arsenic in the dust. What we don't have proof yet is whether or not that arsenic is actually being delivered to the surrounding communities.
But he's hopeful answers will come soon.
We're working with the Utah Division of Air Quality to set up monitors in places that would be able to capture the dust better so that we can determine whether or not arsenic and other metals are posing an actual threat to the people who live along the Wasatch Front.
At the Great Salt Lake, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
This leads us into our question of the day.
Yeah, Wes, you know, we were just talking about dust storms in Utah, but we don't really deal with a lot of dust here in the south. Instead, we have to deal with the tropics.
Well, I don't know. We may start to deal with some dust.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I feel like ragweed is its own problem. It's like our southern dust around
here. There
you
go.
The pollen. So, you know, we're not really dealing with tree pollen anymore, dealing more with the grass pollen, ragweed pollen. But we are still in the peak of hurricane season, or at least moving away from it. So on that note, Wes, here is tonight's weather question. When does, we're talking at miles per hour, when does a tropical storm become a hurricane? At what wind speed does it officially make that transition? So could it be A, B, C, D? You let us know, and we'll have the answer later in the show.
Yeah, we'll have the answer later in the show. It is hurricane season, so there's a system that we are tracking out in the Atlantic. We'll show you where Philippe, it seems like we've been talking about Philippe for over a month now. We'll show you where that system's going and if it will have any impact on our weather as we continue.
Thanks, Wes. Well, check it out. Still ahead on First Alert Weather Extra. That's definitely not Philippe, the tropical storm. How Oak Mountain State Park had a special guest bring a very interesting winter weather prediction.
Well, October is here, and meteorologist Matt Daniel looked back at the month of September and looked at some of the weather data and how that may translate over into the new month in this update.
Well, we have made it into October, and of course we have a look at your Alabama seasonal calendar. It's made up, but you get the idea. We've had some heat, we melted, then we had a little bit cooler air, we had a hurricane scare. Fall, of course, it finally is here. And now we're just waiting on when is it going to get a little bit colder. Of course, we've been hinting that maybe by this weekend we'll start to finally experience those fall temperatures. But here we go. Of course, we're going to time it out with your holiday countdown now that fall is here. Halloween 29 days away. We fall back 34 days from now, and Veterans Day about 40 days away. So here we go with those sunset, sunrise times. Of course, sunset has already occurred, but notice November 1st, the sunset's at 5:55, and then December 1st, that sunset even earlier, all because we're losing daylight, and of course we fall back 4:39. So that is very early. And then for sunrise times tomorrow, 6:42 in the morning. It's going to be a little after 7 on November 1st. And then 6:33 will be our sunrise time on December 1st. Let's talk about what happened this past month, how much rainfall we've seen. And typically on average, we'll see about 3 to 4 inches of rain. 4 inches normally is what we should see in Birmingham, but we only picked up about a half of that, not nearly 2 inches of rainfall. In Tuscaloosa, only picked up a little over an inch, and in Anniston, closer to average, you picked up almost 3 inches of rainfall for the month of September. So it's been pretty dry. Of course, we've been monitoring the drought monitor, and we've been seeing those abnormally dry conditions develop, and that will likely continue because look at the monthly average rainfall. October is our driest month of the year. Normally we'll average a little over 3 inches of rainfall for the month of October, and then we start to see greater chances for rainfall as we go into late fall and into winter. So our average high temperatures for October, 76 degrees, so we're starting to cool things down, and those average low temperatures for the month, about 54 degrees. So, as we go into the month of October, you can always download the WBRC First Alert weather app. Download it, get hourly forecasts, and of course, love to see your fall photos. Once the leaves start to change colors, we'd love to see that. Make sure you submit it, put your name in there, and let us know where you're taking those pictures from. We'd love to see it. So happy October, everybody.
Cool evenings and cool mornings. Check it out. We're already dropping into the 70s in a lot of areas out there right here at sunset time with it being so dry. This is one of the nice things about this time of the year. We get to enjoy these crisp conditions, but it is very dry and we need the rain. But the next big thing for us, that chance for wet weather and the possibility of a few showers showing up around Friday and into Saturday. This one model shows 3 o'clock on Friday, but some of our other data shows some of this rain holding off until later in the evening. But the cooler air follows and flows in over the weekend. We'll have a nice cool north to northwest wind. It's going to be some sweater weather out there for this weekend, giving you that first alert. Be ready for those changes. Look at this cold air that spreads across a good portion of the country. And by the way, for Alabama fans traveling to Texas A&M, if you were checking the temperatures there today, probably noticed temperatures in the mid-90s again for afternoon highs. But this cooler air is going to settle in. There will be kickoff temperatures in the 70s for this upcoming weekend. Out in the tropics, Philippe is still here. This thing, it seems like it's been around half the hurricane season, but it's now expected to move north, and by Saturday could grow into a Category 1 hurricane. It's been all over the place out here, but it's staying in the Atlantic. And one thing about the tropics this season, although it has been active, we've made it all the way up to Rena as far as the named tropical systems, but they've all stayed out in the Atlantic, and we haven't seen that predominant Bermuda high or semi-permanent high off the east coast that often drives those systems back to the west direction. So this just gives way for these systems to track there off to the north. The pattern has shifted there across the tropics this hurricane season compared to past hurricane season, but no impacts in the Gulf region. Tomorrow morning out the door, we'll see some 60s and 50s. We get the lunchtime. You can see 79 degrees there. Another beautiful day tomorrow. Winds out of the east at 5 to 10. Temperatures in the mid-80s there later in the day. It is going to be warmer during the afternoon, but again, we'll enjoy those pleasant evenings for Wednesday, Thursday, and still keeping that rain chance around 30% right now for Friday. And then for the weekend, highs in the low 70s and low temperatures in the 40s. And we have been talking about those cooler conditions, and that is going to be here, looks like over the next looks like for this weekend and into next week, that dry weather will hang on in the cooler temperatures. It looks like 70s there into Monday, and I'm sure with these cooler temperatures, days continuing to get shorter, these fall colors are about to show out, Lauren Linehan.
Yeah, Wes, it's about time for them to show out. I know it always feels like it takes forever here in Alabama, and right now we're seeing kind of that minimal color on the tree. Maybe here and there you'll see a little bit of color, but let's get that official fall foliage forecast. I do think one thing that's going to work in our favor for how vibrant the leaves could be later this season is that we had a fairly really wet summer. So even though it's dry right now, I think that wet summer could end up bringing us some vibrant colors over the next few weeks. So 1 week from now, I think it's going to be pretty patchy here. Then 2 weeks, it's going to be like, all right, we're beginning to see some progress. It's really late October, early November when we begin to get at that peak for central Alabama. So let's track it here. So this is the first week of October, and again, just minimal color change now. You can see where the color change is more vibrant is up in New England, into the upper Midwest, and into parts of the Rockies. So at those higher elevations too, into the Appalachians. But as we get into next week, we begin to see, okay, that color could be turning a little bit more patchy, and then you really see those colors getting more vibrant. We get towards that peak of the foliage as we get towards late October. Here we are the last week in October, showing us near peak in central Alabama, and then at peak as we get into the first week of November. So I love here in central Alabama that our fall foliage is kind of at peak right around Halloween. Doesn't that just get you in the best spooky season vibe? Remember, when you do see those fall foliage colors beginning to creep in, make sure you send them to us on the First Alert weather app. Well, though the leaves have barely started changing, animals are already making their preps for the cool down on the horizon, like a weather-savvy reptile at Oak Mountain State Park. Oak Mountain says that their Russian tortoise, Snickers, collected 4 different persimmons from trees in the park and inspected their seeds. In weather folklore, persimmons can provide a clue to the winter season. Snickers saw 4 shovels in the seeds, meaning that we could see some snow to shovel. Now, here's the thing. Snickers, you were real cute, but we aren't going to put a lot of stock in that forecast. But you are one of our fellow weather weenies, so we always appreciate that. Well, we're talking about maybe seeing a cool down in the forecast for us. Meanwhile, runners in the Twin Cities Marathon in Minnesota over the weekend had a change of course after organizers canceled the event due to record heat. It was the first time in history they had to do that. Caroline Cummings reports.
Can I take one?
Yeah.
Thank you. From some points along the race route, you wouldn't even know it was canceled. That's because many runners decided to give it a go anyway.
People we run with, some neighbors, and some other people we texted when we found out the race wasn't going to go on, and it's like, who wants to keep running?
But that didn't stop the disappointment after runners woke up to an early morning email saying heat made the organizers call it all off.
They didn't take this decision lightly at all, and I feel really heartbroken for the runners and for the organization.
It for sure is a bummer that it's canceled.
Yeah, it's a disappointment, especially when you train for 5 months for something.
Officials with Twin Cities in Motion said heat concerns were just too big to ignore when the forecast showed temperatures on pace to break a 120-year record for October 1st. Fall is the second fastest warming season in Minnesota as our state comes to grips with climate change.
I think there are people going through stages of grief, as it were, for the goals they had and the excitement they had for running a marathon, and we feel that for them. We're saddened to have to make this decision, but we knew it was the right one.
Still, some ran part or all of their original routes, greeted with the same cheers along the way.
The energy for the marathon, this is my second one, is just electric, and to have people still out there cheering you on is like the best thing ever.
Allie Binder still ran a half marathon when she was supposed to run the whole thing. Now she thinks organizers made the right call.
Super hot. It would have been dreadful if I had to make it till 1 o'clock.
Well, hopefully we can put the brutal summer heat behind us. On that note, let's take a look at today's weather almanac.
Hope. Yeah, just come in with it full screen. Yep. All right. How much time we have?
Or 40 seconds total.
40
so not a lot
total
of time.
in the show. Okay.
So we'll just.
All right. Welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. We had some Weather 101 tonight. At what wind speed does a tropical storm become a hurricane? Well, the answer, 74 miles per hour. Lauren, I think that'll mess your hair up.
It sure would, yes. Having covered a few hurricanes, yeah, I can confirm 74 miles per hour, this ponytail one.
You know, everybody I talk to that goes to cover a hurricane, the one thing they say is they get soaked.
Oh, yeah. You can never have enough change of clothes, never enough socks, and I'll let you keep going with that.
Well, hopefully we'll get a few showers by the weekend. We'll have some updates, 7-day forecast again tonight.
We will, and you can join us here on Weather Extra every weeknight at 6:30. Have a safe and happy Monday evening.